How's it going, guys? It's Noir Tapes, back with another video. Today I wanted to discuss one of my favourite features. I've only stumbled onto it relatively recently in my producing career. Really got shown by one of the homies over in New York. He uses it a lot. Firstly, before I just start discussing it, the feature I'm talking about is called Capture MIDI. You may have heard this before, maybe not. Either way, I'm going to break it down, show you what it does. I think it's really useful for speeding up the workflow and creating a more authentic sounding beat. Essentially what it does, it's just a little button on the top of Ableton. I don't know about other DAWs, I'm sure there's an option somewhere, but I work out of Ableton specifically at the moment, so I'm just going to break it down in Ableton. So essentially all this button allows you to do is just jam along to the rest of your beat or just to the metronome, whatever you feel, and then when you've played something that you liked, you just hit this button and you can rewind the MIDI that you've played that you weren't recording, right? So essentially it's an alternative to pressing record and going, but the difference is it allows you to just jam out and be really authentic sounding and sort of create new ideas that you weren't purposely planning to record, right? Because you're just jamming out. So I'm going to show you an example of how this works. I just have a beat set up. I'm going to use this beat for another video this week. But basically all I'm going to do is have the metronome running. And I'm just going to play with the drums on the keyboard here. And then I'm going to find something I like and I'm going to capture MIDI and show you how it works. So let's get into it. So these are the drums I have here. Pretty fat. They've already got some processing on them from the beat I was working on. So I'm going to just hit play with the metronome going. I'm not recording, just hitting play with the metronome running on a 4-bar loop that's just repeating. So you won't hear anything except the metronome. And then all I'm going to do is play some drums. And then I'm going to show you with the screen recording how the capture MIDI button works. So let's start the metronome. So I just played around, obviously, as you heard before, and now I'm going to do, in Ableton here, I'm just going to come up to the top right here, this little square button. You see down the bottom of there it says Capture MIDI. Click here to capture MIDI notes you just played, and it will create a new clip. So if I click that, you can see it popped in a little MIDI section here, and you can also drag it out. You can see how long it captured as well. So there's where I started playing, right? You see how easy and quick that was to come up with ideas? It's almost like the improvisation in jazz, right? You can sit there with the piano and just improvise, and you're not necessarily aiming to capture anything. You're just aiming to play. But except in this mindset, while you're playing, if you hear something you like, you can just capture it and edit real quick. So obviously you can see with the drums, they're all over the shot, right? They're not quantized at all, which I love. That's the best part about this process, because you don't get the quantizing and you can adjust things after the fact. So I've just clipped it, right? And I've just found a little loop that I like in my drums. So I can come along now and just move notes around to fit how I want it to. But for the most part, I try to leave it as it was originally. I think it's really cool. So you can see there in that tiny little section, I just moved the kick that was clipping on the end, just moved it out of the frame, and then I adjusted the snares because they were a little bit too forward. It's got that like Jay Dilla swing, you know, which I do like, but that was a little bit too much for my taste. And there you go. Look at that. I just made a drum loop in like 2 seconds. And the best part about this is if you didn't start with the drums, you start with the melody, you could then just take your drums and just play along with the melody and then capture it and create an idea like that. So quick. Anyways, I just wanted to show you guys that, give a brief little breakdown about it. I think it's a great little button that not many people know about. Not a whole lot of people look up at that top section, you know, you're just hitting play, the stop button and the record button. You're not usually looking at the rest of the buttons up there. Obviously you have the loop button, but if you know the shortcut Control L, you don't need to touch that button at all. So hopefully you guys learned something today. I just want to quickly give a little video about it. It's one of my favorite little features in Ableton. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.